Just a little.
So I just got this shirt, which should not really be controversial. It says woman, noun, adult, human, female. For some reason, we now live in a time where people might take offense to this because they believe that this is somehow minimizing the experience of transgendered women. And I think I like this shirt so much, first of all, because it's just the dictionary definition. So we're at a point now where people are getting offended by the actual definitions of words, to the point where someone was actually kicked out of a bar for wearing a shirt like this. So we've really gotten off track. And what I want to address is gender. For some reason, there's now a narrative that gender is fluid or gender is somehow innate within your head, or that someone can be born into the wrong body because of their feelings of gender identity. And I think we're forgetting what gender is, which is how biological males and biological females exist in the world, and the behaviors typical of males and females. There are some who would suggest that men and women are the same. I'm going to argue that they're not, especially as a 5 foot, 100 pound woman. I would argue that I'm quite different from a 6 foot to 200 pound man, both in bone structure and in brain structure. Our experiences are very different. We have different hormones coursing through our systems. Our skeletal systems are different. We are different. I have reproductive capabilities that men don't have. We're different. So that's a fact. A woman is an adult human female. A man is an adult human male. And gender is how gender is how males and females behave in any given culture. So in some cultures, perhaps, women are matriarchs, and that's how they express their gender in that culture. In some cultures, men are patriarchs, and that's how they express their gender in that culture. In some cultures, girls tend to play with dolls and be nurturing. In some cultures, boys play with dolls, or in some cultures, boys and girls can play with dolls. And it doesn't change our biology or our basic human anatomy. We are male or female. And our gender is simply how we exist in the world. So it isn't that gender is necessarily fluid or that someone can be stuck in the wrong body. It could be that the way someone's expressing their gender is non-traditional. And the feminists actually tried really hard to push the idea that boys could be more feminine and girls could be more masculine. And that does not undermine our gender or our anatomy or our femininity or our masculinity. That we can express our gender in lots of different ways. So along comes this new movement that suggests that gender is fluid, or that a woman can be trapped in a man's body, or vice versa. And that totally undermines, first of all, the idea of getting away from gender stereotypes, which is what I thought the feminist movement was all about. We wanted to get away from the idea that women were on a path to get married and reproduce and have babies and not work. That was sort of the goal of feminism. And the idea was that women could excel in fields where men tended to excel, and that boys could be tender and nurturing. And so that was the narrative that sort of set us on this bizarre path in which now we have the idea of gender fluidity. And of course, genders can be fluid. A woman can work as a coal miner, she could be a doctor, she could be a teacher, she could be a stay-at-home mother. That's gender fluidity, all within a female, all within a woman, all within the gender of womanhood. The gender fluidity is not about being not woman and not man and something in between. The gender fluidity is the fact that adult human males and adult human females can express their gender in all different kinds of ways, and that we don't have to lock people into gender stereotypes. Unfortunately, suggesting that gender is fluid or that a man can be stuck in a woman's body is to suggest that there are clear and standard gender stereotypes that if you don't adhere to, then you're gender fluid and you're no longer a man or a woman. You're somewhere in between. No, what you are is either a human biological male who exhibits his maleness in non-traditional ways, or you're a human adult female who exhibits her femaleness in non-traditional ways. And this is totally different than people who have gender dysphoria or who have body dysmorphia, which are actually clinical disorders in which people feel like they cannot be comfortable in the body that they have. And those are psychiatric disorders that can be dealt with through therapy and other management skills. And if it's really bad, then adults sometimes choose to transition to another gender. That's very different than being gender fluid. And it's very different than actually the idea that a man can be born into a woman's body, which is baloney. It's bizarre that we're even suggesting this. What it means is that a man can have extremely feminine gender expression, and that's okay. And women can have extremely masculine gender expression, and that's okay. It still means that they're the gender of their anatomy. So I'm making this because I'm extremely frustrated with the current narrative, which is now suggesting that if a little girl who doesn't even really understand gender or sexuality or anatomy or physiology comes and says at the age of 2 or 3 or 4 that she's actually a boy, some people are saying, yeah, we should allow her to change her name. We should allow her to dress like a boy and be a boy because she's stuck in the wrong body. And she's not. She is stuck in exactly the right body, the body that she was born with, the body that allows her to move throughout the world and experience it. A beautiful body that does not need to be changed and does not need to be transitioned. In fact, if we start transitioning all the ultra feminine boys and all the ultra masculine girls, we are going to end up right back where we started, suggesting that if people have very strong traditional gender expression, that they are male and female, and anything other than that is in this weird gender fluidity, and we need to transition or accept or change pronouns. So my frustration is that I see this as coming full circle to the idea that if boys and girls are feminine or masculine, more so than our traditional gender stereotypes accept, that we will suggest that they were born in the wrong body, rather than that they are expressing their gender in a perfectly appropriate, non-traditional way. And I think this is very damaging to both boys and girls and to society at large. So I'm glad I got this shirt. It upsets me deeply that somebody would find it offensive. The dictionary definition of woman is now offensive. And I don't accept it. I'm offended by that. And I don't go around trying to hurt people's feelings. In fact, all my life, I have really tried to be a pleaser. And I finally had it because I've realized that what happens when people try to please others and try to affirm others, they end up getting bullied. And the people who currently are pushing this narrative are bullies. They are telling women, whether or not they are woman or cis woman or trans woman, they are trying to change the language of our society. They're basically trying to force us to accept stuff that is non-scientific, that is actually damaging to both men and women. So I've had it. I'm tired of trying to be polite and pleasing. And it's time that we stand up to this, because we're to the point now where we're being told that we need to accept children dressing up and performing as drag queens for the pleasure of adults, which is really, in my mind, sick. That we're to that point that we are pretty much accepting the sexualization and objectification and exploitation of children in the name of political correctness. And that's not correct. And that's not politically correct. And we need to stand up and say, enough. We've had it. We are tired of people pushing their own definitions on us. We can be very feminine males and still be a man. We can be very masculine girls and still be a woman, grow up to be a woman. And reject the term cis, which is supposed to somehow designate the connection of the female brain with the biological body of someone, instead of just the dictionary definition. So that's my little rant for the day. I really encourage people to challenge this, because it's not that I have a problem with people who are transgender. In fact, most people who are transgender go about living their lives trying to live below the radar, not making waves, just trying to be as comfortable as they can in the world. And this movement is going to hurt them. It's going to hurt the whole LGBTQ movement, and it's going to hurt our entire culture. And so I urge you not to let these few radical trans activists rewrite what gender is, rewrite what biology is, and rewrite our society to accommodate them.